Season 2 of Amphibia is finally here with the episodes Handy Ann and Fort in the Road. Handy Ann is obviously this review, and Fort in the Road is going to be going up either today or tomorrow. Thankfully, after a few technical difficulties, I'm able to actually get these reviews out for you. I was kind of worried I wasn't going to get to for a little while there, which would have sucked. That said, real quick out the gate, both of these episodes were absolutely fantastic. I couldn't have hoped for more from the premiere to the second season of this show. The first episode, Handy Ann, felt very much like any other episode of the first season of the show in a lot of ways. It's now possible for them to leave the valley, so Hop, Pop, Sprig, and Polly are going to take Ann to Newtopia to try to find a way to get her home. We saw that in the trailer for season 2. But because Amphibia is a place so wrought with danger, they have to prepare first, so they call in Chuck. He grows tulips, and to disaster-proof the house and look after their things while they're gone, their things primarily being their crops. But seeing how small Chuck is, despite the fact that he grows tulips, and thinking that maybe he won't do such a good job at this as they expect, and considering how much they're risking for her, Anne decides that she needs to take matters into her own hands, and so she disaster-proofs the house herself, taking some time while Polly torments Sprig near to the point of insanity to gather up all the supplies she needs from all of the correct suppliers throughout town, and even find a measure which she thinks might be able to protect the plants, a glowing goo which, when applied correctly, will allow the plants to defend themselves physically. But when you use too much, it turns them into homicidal monsters, which can combine into a giant anime-style Gestalt robot. And it's worth pointing out that up until the point that the crops come alive and start trying to eat the people who were intended to eat them, Anne did a really good job with all of this disaster-proofing stuff. She clearly understands the society and the economy of the valley enough to know where to get all the correct supplies, and even understands the dangers of the valley well enough at this point to plan ahead for what she should plan ahead against. It's only because she's reckless enough not to follow the specific instructions on the barrel of goop that the crops try to kill them all. Which is very in character for Anne. She is a little overzealous. Though, it's very important to note that in this episode, we get a very in-character kind of mistake for her, which leads to a cool action sequence where we get to see the whole family do action stuff together and see how capable they are, until the giant Gestalt robot shows up anyway. But her reasons for doing it aren't stupid. They're not early season 1 Anne reasons. She genuinely wanted to help these people who are risking so much to help her. It shows how much she's grown while still having so much more room to grow in the future. And then when the giant vegetable robot smashes the house, Anne gets mad, in part because it just ruined all of her hard work, but also in part because it destroyed the home of these people she cares about. And for the very first time, our eyes are specifically drawn to Anne's eyes as they start to glow blue. And she's able to single-handedly defeat the robot plant thing in just seconds. It was really freaking cool. Definitely a teaser for the kind of stuff we're going to be getting for the rest of the season from her. And I mean, I feel particularly good about it. If you saw my breakdown of the season 2 teaser, you will know why. My theory as to the nature of Anne's specific overarching role in the overall story of Amphibia just keeps getting reconfirmed over and over again. It's fantastic. It's clear at this point that she is absolutely supposed to be some sort of isekai superhero. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, when I say isekai superhero, you should go watch my theory that Amphibia is following the rough outline of an isekai anime. And what's more is the existence of this gunk, which has a colored glow of its own, not only further solidifies that there are mystical elements to Amphibia, but also suggests, and you might think I'm just saying this because one of my theories from that breakdown was proven untrue, but it does suggest that whatever mystical power, brought those crops to life, gave that gunk its power to bring those crops to life, might come from a similar source as Anne's power. Like, colorful glows tend to indicate similar things in fiction, right? Even if they are different colored glows. In fact, Hop Pop specifically calls it a strange green energy, or something to that effect, which suggests that there is some sort of magical energy which flows throughout Amphibia and can take on different colors to create different effects. After all, Hop Pop is the one character in the show so far who seems to have some understanding of what the Calamity Box is. There's a theory about that coming relatively soon, too. I promise this time. And speaking of the Calamity Box, after Anne, again, shows how far she's grown as a character by admitting to her mistake and apologizing right away, and then they call Chuck in again, who immediately fixes the house. Because he grows tulips, son.
Yes, he does.
Anne suggests that they bring the music box with them, at which Hop Pop glances nervously at the place where he buried it, and tells her that they probably shouldn't, in a way that suggests, once again, he knows more about what's going on than he's letting on. I'm very excited to see where that goes, and the reason I said that this feels like a standard episode of Amphibia in a lot of ways, but not always, is specifically this stuff here at the end, the glowing eyes, the hint about the glowing energy specifically, the specific reference to the Calamity Box. All of these are things which suggest outright that we're going to be getting the same kind of storytelling that we got in Season 1, interspersed with little bits of lore. And the second episode, Fort in the Road, is that what I said it was called? I can't even remember anymore because I'm all hyped up about this episode now. Furthers that. Reinforces that. And if you'll recall, one of the things that I did mention about Season 1 is that, despite the fact that it was really good, they didn't dip into the lore a lot, though it always felt like they were about to. Like, given just a little more time, the show would start to delve into the lore, and that's definitely what's happening here, and I'm so excited about it. It almost feels like the kind of pacing we got for the lore stuff in Steven Universe, where it was more concerned with world building and character building in the first season, while at the same time laying groundworks for the lore reveals that we were going to be getting later. And then starting around Season 2, or Season 1B, I guess, technically, the lore stuff started to come more often. And granted, because this episode felt so much like just an episode of Amphibia, it didn't really impress all that much as like a ooh, spectacular premiere kind of thing. But at the same time, I don't think I would have wanted anything bigger than this at this point in the story, so I'm okay with that. And showing how well Anne has acclimated to the valley and gotten used to life here to the point that she can disaster-proof the house entirely on her own, and with suggestions from the shopkeepers in town, obviously, is a good way to say goodbye to the valley before we move on to somewhere else. All in all, I can't think of a single thing to criticize this episode for. Even the fact that Anne made the mistakes that she made in this episode makes sense, and I don't feel like she's backsliding or that her growth has stagnated or that she isn't going to eventually outgrow making those kinds of mistakes in situations where she can't afford to. As per usual, though, guys, I'd like to know, what did you think of the Amphibia episode Handy Anne, if you have seen it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord, link in the description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.